Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mystic Hour. I am Kristy Mysticwater. And
I'm Kristy Mysticwater.
And I'm Kristy Mysticwater.
And we are going to sit around and have some nice chill roundtable chats and talk about all things mystical and nerdy today on this live stream podcast. Let's have a quick word from me, Kristy Mysticwater, about our sponsor, DiceBard. So, for all time, if you use the promo code PROBO, P-R-O-B-O, you get free expedited shipping on Dice.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Stop talking, Kristy. Kristy's talking right now.
Sorry, Kristy, go on.
You have something to say, Kristy? You want us to talk so badly.
I just said, wow, I'm sorry.
That's such a Kristy thing to
Sorry, this is a little bit difficult where all of these Kristys are sharing one headspace. It's too many Kristys on one.
This is what happens in
I feel
Kristy's
like
head.
This is an accurate depiction of Blossom and Blaze and Acme.
Yeah.
What a name. This is what it's like. Anyway, take it away, Kristy. Yeah, DiceBard is pretty cool.
Oh, we got shows. We got shows like every day. Just check out our schedule. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, usually we're not this like really potted out, but hashtag 420.
I Kristy like to eat stuffing from pillows.
Okay, you know what? Fuck this. I'm moving it over.
Before we descend to the madness,
let's take this over to our guests for today.
We
have Kirsten and we have Dale with us.
Yes, nice to meet you too.
Say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Just introduce myself now, or just say hello?
Dale,
let's
introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are, where you're from, any plugs and shoutouts you want to do, feel free.
All right,
It's almost like you're a natural running the show.
I've got a plug to talk about.
We're sorry, Dale. Go ahead.
That's right. My name is Dale. I'm from Chicago, but I live in Philly. I'm playing D&D for like 3 years. Run my own game on Sunday nights. Some plugs, I guess, would be Matt Colville's new book, Stronghold and Followers. 5e supplemental about keeps, temples, establishments, mage towers, druid groves, barbarian camps, how to run them as a character, how to get money from them, how to siege castles. Fun stuff. I've played, tested it myself. It's pretty good. And then Drive-Thru RPG has Thessalonian Games, The Witcher tabletop RPG. Any fans of the series would highly recommend getting that, reading through it. It's some good stuff in there.
Love the Drive-Thru RPG. What part of Chicago are you from?
I'm from the suburbs. By Schaumburg.
Oh, nice. Well, a friend of mine, his name is Lip. His dad drives around in Schaumburg all the time and drives Uber.
Nice.
Yeah. Lip is from Hyde Park.
Kirsten, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be on this show.
Yeah, who are you?
I'm regretting all of my life decisions up to this point.
Kirsten, I feel like that's a very deep thing
Stop
to say.
calling me Kirsten! Just call me Mystic! If you're gonna give me a name, call me Mystic! God damn it!
Oh, okay, so this is the first outburst that we had on the show where it says, sorry, but
everybody take a drink! Everybody take a drink! Yeah, as you can see, there is the subtitle of AKA Pissing Off Kristy. Welcome to the show.
What are you talking about? We're not pissing ourselves off.
I'm not pissed off at all.
I'm totally fine. I'm very chilled.
I'm having a good time, actually.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, first off, for all of you all, Kristy's included, what is the usual? Tell me about a favorite class that you play. What type of race do you play? Just basic stuff. How about we start off with you, Kristy, Mysticwater, whatever your name is.
Kirsten, I think it was.
Kirsten, it's Kirsten.
Kirsten, I'm pretty sure it's Kirsten. What role do you usually like to jump into with D&D?
It's not a role I like to jump into, but I'm usually given the mom role in groups.
That's true.
I usually
Kirsten
I prefer...
is a very mum name, so it does make a lot of sense.
It's funny.
Us naturally feel inclined towards that role.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah, us Kristies are also moms, so it's
I completely have this other campaign that I do on Wednesdays where like all of the voices in my head get really on my nerves. So I just this one thing where I just tell them all to shut up. Then there's this other one that has this ridiculous accent that I don't understand anything of.
Fuck you.
So I'm just gonna quiet down so that our Christian can talk. So yes, keep on going, please.
My preferred class is Druid. I do also enjoy playing bards, but I think my probably favorite character, as per usual, is Bubbles, because she's so fun.
Yes, Bubbles.
Yeah, so
Bubbles.
hardcore.
That's funny. I play Bubbles too.
I play Bubbles all the time.
Oh yeah, let's hear your guys' Bubble voice. I'd love to hear it.
You can't.
That's
do
what
that.
I thought. That's what I thought.
I'm pretty sure if I try, I'm gonna shatter all
like that.
I see how it is. Talk, can't
Actually,
walk,
you know
walk.
what? Kristy number 3 could do that because their balls haven't dropped yet.
Okay. Alright, fuck it. I'm gone. Peace out, you listen to Turtles.
And then there were 2.
And there were 2.
You're pissed off at Kristy. Congrats.
So if you guys are at home playing, just to let you know, there's 2 times that you should have drank so far. How about you, Dale? Class, race, favorites?
My favorite class is playing between a ranger and a bard, honestly. I love the ranger. I love being able to just get in there and just hit people from 300 paces away, you know what I mean? But then the bard is just... You have the stupidest spell list. Just the most horrible spells. And you're like level 5 and you're like, hey, what if I just use Tiny Servant to just trigger all the traps instead of disarming the traps? Huh.
Okay, Kristy
It
One knows a
helps.
lot about that for sure. Kristy One just nerfs that ability all the time.
Yep. I have a lot of tiny servants.
It was that race.
For those that are listening on podcasts, these Kristy's 1, 2, and 3 is actually Lip, JJ, and Jamie. Just so you know. Oh, sorry.
Wait, you gotta do 1, 2, and 3. So
oh, right. So
you gotta
JJ is
roll.
number 1, Lip is number 2, Jamie's number 3. For those of you that are not watching and probably very confused at the moment, this is what's happening.
Yeah. If you're doing number 1 or number 2, know that JJ's number 1, I'm number 2, and Stumpy's too young to vote.
Oh
Pissing Kristy off. We actually turned it around, and it's the whole shtick of this was to just piss Jamie off.
The whole
We said,
It's okay. I get this every day in my normal life. Please do.
What about race?
For me, oh man. I like the Eladrin because they're so dynamic, but I'm gonna have to say gnome. I love just being a gnome and doing crazy shit, just gnome
Kristy
stuff.
number 1 loves gnomes. Tiny servants, as I said.
Yes.
Oh no. Oh no.
Sent into madness. How long have... Oh, I'm sorry. I keep on forgetting my other brain cells because, there's so many of me, it's hard to keep track of them.
3.
Yes. Kristy, number 3, favorite race and class.
I like druids and bards, I think.
You know what? Get the fuck out.
Hang on, let me guess. Your favorite race is Drow.
Yeah, how'd you know? How'd you know?
Actually-
My favorite character is Bubbles.
This is getting out of control.
We're like 5 minutes in. What is happening?
Okay, but Jamie's favorite class is the Conjuration Wizard because it's fun. And my favorite race, oh fuck, I don't know. Goblins.
Kristy number 3. What would you conjure? Like, what would you be your favorite conjuring if you were a conjuration wizard?
Ginger ale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes me so happy.
Yes. Ginger ale for 500, Bob. How about you, Kristy 1? We're only calling you Kristy 1 because you are the one that looks most like the number 1 when you stand up.
As Kristy number 1, I don't know JJ very well. I mean, I don't really respect him at all. But I think he's...
There's not a lot to respect there. I mean, he is from Australia. He likes Vegemite, so like I'm pretty sure that's his answer.
He's a weird fucker. I believe his favorite class would probably be he loves a good alchemist, and I mean he loves
being the banana.
loves tabaxi.
Yeah.
So a tabaxi alchemist. Definitely.
Wait, did you actually just say that? Hold on. I know this is just a joke, but did you really? Oh, that came out of your mouth. Somebody
Clip it!
Clip it! Get it! Quick! Just that part.
If anybody's on chat right now, it needs to be clipped non-stop. I want at least 50 people clipping that one moment.
That's all I gotta say.
And by that, I would like to let everybody know that this is probably another moment that we just broke Kristy number 1. Cool, yeah. We're not going to talk about Kristy 2 because...
Kristy 2, that's not fair to you.
No.
Come on, number 2.
Come on, Kristy 2. What's your favorite class movie?
Well, I like playing dominated characters. I like those characters that just really just get in there and just like yell at everybody and just does not give a fuck all the time. So
as a number 2, I see that with a lot of like repressed anger. I see that you
just like number 2, just very intense face. This like just being constantly stalwarted and stopped up. It is very difficult all the time. So I usually stay very angry and just kind of like snap off. So Barbarian is obviously my favorite class for sure. But you know,
who's your
like,
favorite character? Bubbles?
You know, I was gonna say Bubbles, but then like I really like this Blaze character because we've been talking about just like, you know, partner roles. Like every character has to have like a romantic relationship, and I really like being with somebody, but like also having them be a complete jackass to me. So like I get really angry at them like all the time. So I'll go with
that's actually how this came about.
Yeah, that all happened at the beginning. So,
why am I here?
I'm looking for punishment. That's why.
But also, as Kristy number 2, I also like to like rally things in a little bit. So let's get back to these questions.
Kristy number 1 is not about that.
Kristy number 3 has no choice in the matter.
So as we know that this show is also talking about like risk and reward. We're still trying to figure out if this is a risk that deserves a reward. What is the top most important part of D&D as far as the pillars to you all, and why?
I think we should start with Kirsten on this one.
That's a good idea.
What's the question?
This is a complete tune down.
This is the last time we have you on this show, Kirsten. You have not paid attention the whole time. You've been yelling down the microphone.
Just angry.
It's almost as if you just want to like take this show over from us and do it yourself.
Oh, yeah. I want to hit the stop stream button right now. What are you asking for real?
What do you think is the most important pillar of D&D and why?
What do you mean by pillar?
So if anybody's unaware, there are three, not lying, yes, three
Typically
major.
three.
Yeah, they break down in different ways, but it typically comes down to combat, exploration, and roleplay. Or
social interaction.
Yeah.
I'd probably say roleplay. Exploration is probably a close second, just in terms of like lore and plot building. Like I love when the DM pulls something that happened like 20 sessions ago and it comes up 20 sessions later and everything, like the pieces of the puzzle click. I love that feeling. It's like, I finally see like the madness come together. But in terms of probably my favorite would be roleplay, because I love exploring that side of D&D as an actress, and it's just someone that enjoys psychology and how characters react to one another and react to their environment. I love that.
As a DM, I love pulling things, so that's a really good answer, Kirsten. Just quickly, if you were to assign each of the pillars to one of the three Kristys you see before you, what would we be?
That's a very good question.
You can't see me, so you can't assign me a pillar there.
I'd say probably Kristy number 1 is exploration.
Because like you have to travel so far just to get to fucking Kristy 1.
Elaborate. Yeah, all the way in Canada. Very, very.
It's just like a weird part of Canada. The part of Canada where like everybody just like says whatever type of words they want to say.
Down in the southern hemisphere.
Kristy number 2 is probably more combat, but still heavy RP. Just because Maxion's always getting up and shit and getting stabbed. Robin's getting stabbed, so... And I'd say...
Moral of the story. Lip gets stabbed.
Yeah, so Lip is definitely, like... But he's also still got the RP side, definitely. It's very heavy, especially if you go to our Sunday campaign. Maybe not so much our Wednesday one yet. Jamie is... Kristy number 2 is definitely RP heavy, at least for me. Okay.
Promote someone like that. You don't have the power on this show.
There's a whole process.
Yeah, you have to turn a certain age, and then you have to.
My answers are wrong. My fun is wrong. So don't ask Kristen. Apparently.
Do you say roleplay?
I'm a role player?
Yeah.
How?
You play the role of a child very well.
I'd say, I would honestly say that between you and Lip, you share both the combat and the RP fairly equally. But yeah, I'd say Jamie is heavy on the RP.
It's because of Yoro, isn't it?
It's because of Noah and Chloe, so fuck you.
Can you actually, just because Kristy number 1 is interested, could you please elaborate on why Kristy number 1, I refer to myself in the third person now, is exploration?
Just because of what you've done, at least with Waterdeep. You've already built up this story, and it's not so much the RP with the NPCs that get us engaged, it's what's happening in the city. And you pulled in this like sensation of dread without being scary about it. Like I'm not sure. At least in terms of your DM skills, your exploration seems pretty on point.
Yeah, I really like how your NPCs explore how long it's reasonably okay to kiss somebody.
Look, Kristy number 1 thinks that JJ is all about pushing those boundaries.
Yes, and I would say Storm King's Thunder is a little bit different
tongue
because...
punching.
God damn it. I'm just gonna stop. Dale, what's your favorite pillar?
Let's move on to Dale. Dale, we have 3 pillars to choose from. Remember, Kristy number 1 is exploration, Kristy number 2 is heavy RP and combat, and Kristy number 3 is roleplay. So which pillar is your favorite? This is essentially you picking out of us 3, which is...
Hey there, baby.
Wow, just
woo me and wow me. My parents would say my favorite is, or at least the one I value the most, would probably be roleplay and social interaction. I think exploration is actually kind of hard to do, especially for new DMs. If you're someone trying to build this sense of like wonderment and things are here, but you can't quite understand it yet, so you got to explore the next couple things and ideas and go down those paths. Combat, I think, can also be really hard for new DMs, but I think the easiest to do is social interaction. And I think without that, there's really not much else around it, especially in 5th edition.
I actually want to piggyback off of that because there are some big things that are specifically happen with some of our newer campaigns, especially how the book of Waterdeep is to kind of explore more of the territory of what social interaction is. I think what's interesting is that particularly those who have been on the show so far, kind of were chosen because they do very interesting things when it comes to social interactions and make some very interesting choices as far as social interactions.
That's true for all of you motherfuckers.
I don't know what you're talking about. Partnerships? What?
I don't make decisions.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have your parents make the decisions for you.
Exactly.
But my question to you all is, how do you all turn something that is not probably, I would argue, is probably not the most popular pillar of D&D into something that your entire party gets involved in?
What do you mean? RP?
Yeah, I would say that social interaction is something that I think because people have a little bit maybe more comfortability. I'm not quite sure what it is. If it's comfortability, if it's something that is not weighted as much as the other two, or it doesn't seem as difficult to the DMs, like you said, Dale. How do you rope that back in to make it equal with the other pillars?
I don't know. I'm not a DM.
Even as a player as well. How do you rope that in to be a focus?
Don't bring any of the other stuff in. Just RP.
I mean, yeah, that's literally it. Because in our Sunday group, we almost never find combat. It's almost always RP, some exploration, but almost always focus of RP. The combat's there when Eric gets the chance to pull it in, but it's a very rare occasion just because we're so socially interactive heavy.
Yeah, and then we like nerf certain fights out using social interaction, which is interesting too. To you, JJ, because I think that Kristy with a weird accent.
Kristy with an eye.
Do you? Oh man, why is it freezing now? This is like the perfect moment for my retaliation. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Everything good?
Ooh.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We got you. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
How do you as a DM? I can kind of hear you guys. You guys are kind of like broken up right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. How do you as a DM focus on social interaction as like a prominent pillar over combat and exploration?
See, for me, Kristy, number one, it is it's an easy thing to do because when you have the right players, it kind of fuels itself. The needs and the wants of the players will kind of fuel the direction of the campaign, which way it goes, how they take it. It's just very easy to implement those factors when you have players that are willing to perform and role play and do the things that are necessary for that. So I really don't have to do any work in relation to that. It's most of what JJ does is, is that he will feed off the vibe, the energy of the players, and come up with things accordingly. So there's really no planning or anything towards social interaction. I do try to, well, something I am trying to implement is a little bit more focus on storytelling within a combat scenario. So rather than just, all right, I rolled a 19, I hit the creature. JJ is going to start trying to implement a little bit more of the role play into those combat scenarios, just to make it a little bit more exciting. Make it feel like every combat is do or die, and it matters.
Yeah, I can see that. As he freezes.
Kristy number 2. Your internet is a number 2.
Yes, it is. My internet's fine.
Yes, Kirsten's internet is absolutely perfect.
Yep.
Very good.
I love that.
I
love that.
Let's throw this question over to Kristy number 3. Let's throw this question over to you.
What are we throwing over to Kristy number 3?
You know what? I actually don't know what the question was because I wasn't paying attention, which is probably why.
Neither was I. Kristy number 2 is asking the questions.
I'm just running things, and you're just in the background.
God damn it,
It's Kristy number 2.
We got a question in chat. Which Kristy is Kristy Daddy, though? And that would be Kristy number 1. It has to.
Very true. No,
Yeah.
I think why don't we flip a coin? If it lands on heads, Kristy number 1 is Daddy. If it lands on tails, Kristy number 2 is Daddy. If it lands on the side, which is like never, Kristy number 3 can be Daddy.
Sure.
So whoever that viewer is, go home and flip a coin.
It's Victoria.
That's it. Victoria, flip a coin.
She says maybe Kristen is Daddy, so get wrecked.
Kirsten.
That's not a Kristy, though.
Yeah, that's literally the
Oh,
opposite.
you're not in the running here?
You clearly don't know how to follow instructions, Victoria.
Dale, are you anti-Kristy?
Anti-Kristy? No, I just make Kristy's life very difficult.
Yes.
Especially in all the games that we play together. When when the captain of an airship tells you not to check the cargo hold, what option is there but to check the cargo hold? Come on. So I bring Kristy's character Azora into my shenanigans.
I remember that.
He says, I can throw you off my airship, or you can walk off yourself. I said, I'll walk off myself. So I jumped off the airship, and Kristy followed.
Yeah, it was
I
great.
certainly
So
did.
great. Thousands upon thousands of feet in the air on an airship, and you just jump off.
Yeah, it's just like, alright, peace.
I remember that. I remember that when that happened.
Yeah, because Kristy was spazzing about it for like a week.
I was, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
This is something I want to ask. I wanted to ask you all this because we are all so synergistic because we're the same person except for our 2 guests here. How many times have you found yourself talking to yourself about other people's moments of
the 3 of us
breaking ourselves?
For the 3 Kristies, let's on the count of 3, let's all say our answer.
What was the question?
At the same time, a moment when
to prove how synergistic we are.
You know those moments when like something really big happens in one of your campaigns and you go into another campaign and it has affected you so much that you like talk to yourself about that moment, and then you're sitting here just like, I can't believe that last moment happened, and you talk to yourself and then first you're wondering, why am I talking to myself in another campaign, but then you realize, man, that other situation must have been really bad because now it's starting to affect the other players in this game because they're getting yelled at for no reason, or we have fights that are ensuing because of other things that are happening in other campaigns. Can you all think of any time that's happened to you?
On the count of 3, let's all the Kristies answer. So, Kirsten, could you give us a countdown quickly?
Sure.
What are we answering? Hold on.
We're answering.
Jamie,
It's okay, Kristy.
You're getting some
No
notice.
anxiety needs to be up.
I was talking to the chat. It's important.
Wonderful. I'm Kristy number 3 now, sorry.
Damn it.
I can't remember.
I'm Kristy Prime. I call it.
No, what
It's
the
mine.
fuck? God damn. I'm doing a countdown. I don't think Kristy Jamie Prime is going
Kristy
to
Prime. Kristy Prime.
3, 2, 1.
I don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
It's all the time. That's the only answer there is.
No,
All the
Every
time.
week.
Every time.
single
Every week.
Noah
Every
died.
game. When Noah died.
Walks up into her Wednesday game being like, Elliot broke Terra. All mad as shit.
They've all heard about Bubbles losing Terra, okay?
Oh, yeah.
They've all heard about it.
Yeah.
See? I already know.
I've heard about it.
All the time.
All the time.
Okay, so chat just told me what the question was.
Kristy 4, keep up.
Kristy Prime, thank you very much.
We adopted everybody else on chat as another Kristy. So you're at the bottom of the chat.
As Kristy Prime.
You were a Kristy waitlist. But yeah, I do want to talk about risk. Because I think that there's some very interesting things that happen, and it seems that us as Kristy find ourselves most at the centerpiece of when risk happens within a campaign. So, like, without going into too much details of like asking specific questions, I'm gonna kind of keep it vague. Just ask, why? What do you think is the reason that risk happens when we are involved in a D&D campaign?
As Kristy.
I want to start with Kristy one.
When you're playing as Kristy, and when Kristy is involved in other campaigns, I mean, it's just risky, full stop. I mean,
why?
It's always there's always trouble whenever Kristy's
Why?
involved in something.
Explain yourself. Why?
Kirsten, you have no power here. So.
Oh, you want me to stop the stream? I see how it is. Answer my question, JJ, you motherfucker.
All right, everybody, take a shot.
Yes.
No, Kristy number 1 will answer this later. I would actually be interested to hear what Kirsten has to say first.
Why I think risk happens around Kristy?
Mm-hmm.
Or why do campaigns that involve Kristy typically have a level of risk involved?
Usually it's the relationships. It's usually the RP moments that, at least for me, I think are the RP moments that have the most risk.
Is there a specific element of the roleplay that like initiates for you? Like this is a moment where it's like, yeah, risk is about to happen right now.
Maybe because it's more about separating the player from the character, and you have to have that respect and understanding that the other players at the table know it's your character and not you. And so if Kristy gets angry or Kristy gets upset,
which I do.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Every time Noah talks, it really just.
God, when Maxian just says that one really dumb bitch moment, I just can't help but go off.
For me, it's when my character is not misbehaving that frightens Kristy the most.
Yeah, when Dale's character is behaving, that scares me because I know he's up to something.
Usually with this face on.
Yep, that's the one. Damn it. I honestly don't know because before Kristy number 2 brought this up to my attention like a week ago, I never considered the fact that Kristy was always in the center of these risk moments. So I honestly don't know. I would love to know what Kristy number 2 thinks of this because this Kirsten doesn't fucking know. I'm just guessing that it's an emotional detachment from the player character. That's my guess.
I'll let K1 go and then I'll answer. I did.
Look, speaking as Kristy number 1, I just love to like hog center stage. To be in front of the spotlight. And getting involved in all this drama, that really doesn't even warrant my attention. I just love to just weasel in. It's just in my nature.
Oh.
Because Kristy's a fucking star. Get over it.
Look at that face that what's her name right now? Kristen has. It's just that.
Everybody take a shot.
I think if we were judging the shot game of points for how many times we've pissed Kirsten off, I think Kristy number 1 would be winning on 3. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So keep up with the Kristies.
What are you talking about? I'm too busy trying to make sure that Kristy 3 gets to bed on time. But to answer the question that was originally thrown out, the reason why I asked and the reason why I think that it's curious, and I'm pretty sure a lot of folks on chat can attest to it, and many of you all who have played a campaign with Kristy, Kirsten, and Mysticwater, Mystic Fire, Blaze, Aki, Blossom, etc. With all of those characters, there is a level of like the separation. There's something that's like, I want this character to make decisions that I personally would never make, but then also whatever these characters give me, I will take those elements and make a human or make a person out of that idea. Before running campaigns with myself, this is confusing.
I'm really lost.
You've done this to yourself.
Yeah, I definitely did this to myself.
Third person, Kristy 2. Third person.
So before Kristy 2 started doing campaigns with Kirsten, she was very much a person that focused more on just like getting the bearings of the mechanics of the game. But then when Kristy 2 started playing with Kirsten, it was this idea that a person with a low intelligence can make decisions these exact ways that could represent who I am as a person. So maybe I do make dumb decisions like this, and this is probably why that dice literally rolled this moment, and I'm going to play it very honestly to who I was. I've seen it happen before, and I'm pretty sure a lot of live streams would have moved in that way. I don't know if Kristy as a unified being has ever done like a lot of live streams before that Sunday group started. But when starting the campaign, it was very much so like, I can actually roll a dice, and if I get a 4 versus a 20, I'm going to play how my character would do this, and I'm going to walk through the world as if the dice is literally telling the story, and no matter what, the dice will always tell the story. It made a much more interesting risk factor that then, because I rolled something way back when, I can make a risky choice later on, because Maxian doesn't love magic anymore. He hates magic, and he had that role where he did something that he completely hated magic. So how far can I run with this? And that's just literally what it is. Like, it comes from a sense of acting where you yes and everything, but like, how extreme can this yes and go before you just start creating ridiculous plots where everything is yes and to the nth degree.
Yeah, I can see that.
My first interaction with Kristy was witnessing an incredible moment of risk. And my second interaction with Kristy was her running like a bitch from the current combat situation. So I kind of got polarizing ideas on who Kristy is when she plays D&D.
I also think that Kristy has a knack for just surrounding their self around just unique people that just like making terrible decisions. I think this stream is happening because it's one big terrible decision.
Yes.
Look for the great things that have come from it. I think it's just a matter of making terrible decisions. A shout out to one of Kristy's other players on Sunday who talked about the idea that it's sometimes good to play antagonistic while also still playing unique and moral. There's not such a thing. There's not always just such a thing as like good and bad, but there's also good people who make bad decisions, and that is the most interesting person to him. And I kind of really agree with that. I think that it's one thing to be the paladin who fights for everything good and believes in all good things. It's another thing to be a paladin who fights for all good things, but then thinks that anything purple is evil. And because of that, there's so many interactions that you have with just literally the color purple, not the DVD box set, but anything involving purple at all. I think that makes for a very unique character because you have this limit. No matter how good you want to do things, you always say, I have this unity that I'm playing with this character. So I think that's interesting. I don't know if that's something that Kristy 1 or Kristy 3 even thinks about when playing D&D. Usually,
Kristy 1 doesn't
Kristy
think.
3
Kristy
is
1 just acts. Just acts.
Kristy 3 just tries to make the game hell for normal Kristy. So.
You mean older Kristy?
Yeah. How many times has Kristy's character called your character stupid because you did something ridiculous?
Every
My
time.
count for last session, I think, was 10.
That's because you did do something stupid, Dale. Try to sell your
Dale,
soul
I
to
apologize. Dale, I apologize for calling you stupid. I don't know.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think right now my
Because I'm
character.
Kristy, I mean every moment that I called you stupid. I don't say sorry for calling people stupid
Yeah.
ever.
I think that I can't even remember what I was going to say.
God, stop smoking, Kristy.
Sorry.
Does not help your
420
brain
somewhere,
memory.
bitch.
I'll remember.
What else I got here?
No, that actually, I would like to ask a question. What is the weirdest thing you've seen Kristy do?
God.
Like, what's a weird habit that she has? You know, it could be a weird ritual she does before a game, or just something weird about her in general.
So she really likes to talk about squirt, and I've never had squirt before.
You're too young to know what squirt is, my friend.
So like every campaign or every session, like before the session starts, she just gets on this really wild tangent about squirt. It's weird.
While on the subject of soda, there's one weird thing that normal Kristy does. With a particular model, there's like a ginger ale ad out there in the world where there is this completely stark white background and this ginger ale as if this is like the cover of a Sears magazine, and it's the most pristine looking ad with no words. It's just ginger ale, and I have no context of what happened for the shoot, how the shoot even happened, if this is just her like in her bedroom that just took this photo series. Is just there, but it is also the background of my laptop as well.
That makes me so happy, though.
Kristy number 2, the point of the show is not to make Kirsten happy. It is to make Kirsten angry.
Well, I'm pretty sure Kristy 3 is pretty angry because they haven't had their juice yet. So,
Alright guys, I gotta go.
That time came and went.
I'm succeeding pretty well in my.
I give up. Alright, I lose. It's over. I love everybody in chat. I'll see you guys next time. Probably Saturday.
So I'm pretty sure I won in that game.
It's gone.
Damn it.
Super meta.
If Jamie doesn't come back, I'm gonna kill you, Lip. 'Cause that means
That's how I piss off Kristy.
You fucked up
Just
my
completely
camera.
ruin OBS.
You win.
Jamie!
But Dale, do you have anything weird that Kristy does before a game, or just in general?
I can't say I've noticed anything weird, but it's like one of those things that it just keeps happening, and every time it happens, you just look at Kristy and you're like, oh, idiot. Like, what?
Wait,
Why?
What? Elaborate!
In our Monday night game, tell me why it took her the whole campaign, and she was like, wait, I'm not rolling enough dice.
Oh, right.
It's been like 6 months, Kristy.
I didn't know how to play Barbarian, Dale!
6 months!
And I forgot I had Brave Weapon player this whole time, and I didn't know.
Oh, I already took that feat. Like, come on.
I don't know how to barbarian.
My favorite character is my barbarian. I don't know how to play a barbarian.
Hey, I almost killed the kid because I didn't know how rage worked, okay?
Oh my god.
I feel like that was something that happened IRL.
Just murdered a
Right.
kid.
I didn't know how rage worked. I almost killed the kid. Thankfully, there's a cleric around. It was like giddy safe. It's okay.
Now, was this kid... I'm not even going to say it. You
Stop.
You killed your inner child.
This candle.
Okay,
This
Dale.
candle is labeled joy, so it'll cheer me up. You fuckers. I hate all of you.
Dale, why don't you tell everybody how you made me cry like one of the first or 2 sessions we met?
So
that was terrible.
We were having the time-old and classic discussion of the alignment system. And her character said, you know what, I'm going to help this mysterious and very shady man, who is also a player character, break into wyvern pens and sniff around. And my paladin had just cured all this poison that these wyverns were undergoing. And I'm like, wait, hold up. What are you going to do in there? He's like,
It smells like poison in here.
he goes, don't worry about it. And Kristy's character's just like, I'm helping him. And I was like, that doesn't make the case any better. What are you two doing?
Oh, no.
And then I was like, wait, because Kristy was pretty new, I think, right?
Yeah.
You were like,
It was like
First couple games in.
The emphasis...
and I hadn't been playing D&D that long when I joined your group, because I think I had just joined the Sunday group. So it was very new in my D&D career.
and I was warned about this prior to this game, and I said, you know what is your alignment? I'm just a little curious. I said, oh, chaotic neutral. I was like, oh, you're fine, do whatever the hell you want, because that's the alignment that does whatever the hell they want. And then dude was like, why? Alignment, why? And I was like, dude, okay. Calm down. I just wanted to make sure that, like, since she's a new player, she understands, like, what the alignment system vaguely means. And this was, like, a 30-minute argument, and it got
like
heated.
Almost an hour you two were arguing for
And the whole time, Kristy's like, what did I do? I was like, you didn't do anything. That's the point. I'm trying to explain to you that you didn't do anything.
So the two of them started arguing over my decision to help the one player, and Dale was like arguing, the two of them were arguing about alignment, and then I felt like I was being attacked for my decision, because like I had never really played D&D 5e, and I was like, did I do something wrong? I just caused 2 players to start fighting. And then Dale will say shit how he sees it, and he wasn't being very nice. And so I was like, oh no, Dale hates me. And so I went to the DM after the session, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should stay in this group. I think Dale hates me. I don't know. And she's like, don't talk to me. You talk to Dale. And I'm like, fuck.
No,
I get the
please.
impression that Dale hates me.
Yeah. But I literally cried like 30 minutes after. I was still crying because I was like, he hates me. I did a mistake. So, like, second session, Dale made me cry.
Kristy won. Why did you say that like that was a PSA? Raise your hand if Dale hates you. Raise your hand if you've ever been attacked by Dale viciously and verbally.
Can I just say, the emphasis you put on the word sniffing.
Yeah.
He was an order of the Lycan blood hunter, so sniffing was very appropriate in this case. But yes, he was actually going to sniff.
Okay.
Yeah. Going around just sniffing griffins.
Something's been poisoned here recently.
Yeah, my DM says, in explanation, I said that because I know that if Dale hates you, you will 100% know about it, and he definitely didn't. So that was our DM's explanation. So she's like, you go talk to Dale, and you'll figure it out.
But that other guy,
That other guy ended up leaving within like 2 weeks anyway.
Tell me why. So I joined this game. It was probably 2 or 3 sessions in, and it's my first social interaction with this group. is making Kristy cry and pissing off this other guy. And I'm like, I'm sorry, DM, I think I just ruined your game. Damn it.
Can I just want to, I think, no, I'm not muted. I thought I was.
No, you're fine.
I just want to.
What are you saying? What? I think you need to
Stop, Flip.
Keep talking.
Kristy number 2, you're demoted. Kristy number 3, well, sorry, number 4. You can come up to number 2 if you like.
You can't do that. I call racism in this moment.
So
Here we go. Kristy number 1, shaking things up. I just want to ask everyone's opinion on alignment in general in 5e. For me personally, I think it's a very outdated kind of system, especially with the focus on roleplay in this new edition. Just looking for thoughts on what everyone else thinks.
Personally,
honestly, I think it's utterly bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit. I'm sorry, I was talking over
Yourself?
Yeah, myself.
I feel like it's a very good baseline, but that's as far as I take it. Like it'll help you understand who your character is at first, but once you really get in the groove of your character, I feel like you should just play your character how your character would play.
Yeah, alignment. I don't think alignment has to dictate every single decision you make. It's very dependent on how you think your character would act, and that's very much,
And
very
I also
much
think
involved when
that
it comes to role-playing.
there's points where, like, you in real life will make decisions that you will regret later, but that one decision won't define you as an evil person for the rest of your life. Like, good characters make bad choices and vice versa.
But if you kill a child, your alignment's gonna change.
It was an accident. And that was Kristy doing it,
One
not
does not
Bubble.
simply accidentally kill a child.
No, we've all accidentally killed children here.
I killed a child on purpose.
You
Yeah,
are a
the
child.
way-
You don't have any say in the matter.
Alright, that's it! I'm gonna leave for good this time, I swear
No!
to God.
Stop
my
messing
God.
up my OBS!
Do it again!
Kristy number 3, I think you're being a little bit
I'm number
dramatic.
2. Number 3? Excuse you?
You'll be number 2 when you pipe down and start acting right.
Excuse me. Number 1 already told me I was number 2, so...
Act your age.
3.
Fuck!
This is a vicious
Please
cycle
save
at this
me.
moment.
Send help to 123 Internet Street.
I'm going to answer your
Sorry,
question.
Dale, continue your thoughts on alignment, because if to have an argument about it, it must have been something very at the core of D&D for you. So,
Well,
what are your
my thing is, I don't like when someone tries to explain something, but they're just yelling at you and making a scene out of it. When I was trying to explain, I was just trying to say, hey, look, she's a new player. It's something that is really confusing because the alignment system is a spectrum, but they only give you finite points on that spectrum. So it's your lawful good, but you're always lawful good. There's not, that in between lawful and neutral that is actually called a, character, a personality. So I was just trying to explain that it's a basic guideline for kind of how your character functions in a day-to-day way. You have 3 weeks worth of downtime. You've identified your character to be chaotic good, and they're doing chaotic good things. They're not plotting to burn a village. They're not plotting to club children in the mage school. They're just doing random things. And the way that I said is that you should make your character, you should play your character, and then you should put them into some alignment that you think is necessary for that character.
And part of the problem was the argument escalated because he said when I DM things, and you took real issue with that because it wasn't his
Yes,
game.
I did. I said, this is not your game. I do not care how you do it when you DM. Your DM puts different weight on this issue.
That was,
Sure.
yeah.
My biggest problem with alignments is that it seems like it's built to group people as a party to explain a reason why these characters would stay amongst each other. which to me is not. When you are creating your character, typically a lot of things either happen from player into the character, or it's coming like organically from the character. Alignment is not something that is either. You, especially when we talk about like acting and like building characters in plays, you're never saying this character is a villain. If I'm playing Jafar in Aladdin, Jafar does not think that he's an evil character. He doesn't think of how lawful or chaotic he is. He knows that he's getting the job done, and so like he has a different measurement altogether on something completely different. Am I a dependable person? Am I somebody who's a go-getter? Am I somebody who is ambitious? Cool, I'm all those things. Does that make me evil? Maybe. Does it make me good? Who knows? But having this sense of like, where do you stand on this morality scale is something that we as people are always just bouncing between. So to just kind of categorize it, essentially, I feel like it's only there just to say, all right, well, this is how I'm staying with my party, because no matter what choices I make, it has to be good enough that this good party I'm with, or this evil party I stay with. But if I'm an evil, I'm with the evil party and I'm playing some good alignment, then it's going to make it really impossible to be a part of this group. Right. So this whole system just seems kind of like out of whack to me, in a way that when we start talking more about role playing, it just doesn't seem like it matters anymore. None of that stuff really matters anymore. It actually brings me to a question I was going to ask before. What is the difference between chaos and risk that is progressive in a game versus chaos and risk that is just useless in a game? I had this question built with Kristy and I in mind, because there was a campaign that we were running that there was somebody who intentionally created chaos beginning, middle, and end of the game. But it just didn't lead forward anywhere. They just constantly kept going into these places where we were unable to kind of make any progress within the story. How do you all balance with yourselves as players and as a DM? What is useful chaos versus completely unprogressive chaos?
I can actually talk on this one pretty well. One of the things I actually wanted to kind of bring up today was, rather than like risk is like you doing something in the game, like as a DM taking a risk, doing something that like is a risky situation, or something to give the party that has a lot of risk to it. So I gave them this book called The Book of Forbidden Secrets, and it required a blood sacrifice, and you got a truthful answer to whatever question you ask. Now, I can't tell you what comes of that, because I have at least one player watching this, and I can't spoil what's going to happen for her. But one of my players tried to use that as a bargaining tool to the warden of the prison, who is the villain that has killed them twice in my game. So she gladly took it, and that was chaos that was very not progressive. That destroyed the entire game. But just last week, they were in the Forest of Silent Whispers, and they each kind of had these visions, and they were designed to try and kind of split the party, and they were seen with some person from their past, and they're talking, and they're kind of working through a problem, and then they turn around and say, but why haven't they helped you, though? And they get really dark, and they pose questions that are trying to kind of create doubt of yourself and your party members. I think that is something that could breed more kind of progressive chaos, as it will either force them to hate each other or force them to work together even more.
It's like a progressive conflict.
Mm-hmm.
As a DM, Kristy, is there anything that you do in your campaign to encourage one type of risk and discourage other types of risks?
Not really. I mean, the way Kristy One kind of DMs is they like to really... I mean, it's a little bit more difficult running a module, and that brings up the whole issue of homebrew versus module, but I won't go into that at the moment. But a lot of what Kristy One does is feeds off the energy of the players and where they think the players would like to go and how they would like to interact with the world, and to really make the world really breathe life into the world around them and the decisions they make. And things they are doing in game and in character. So it's very much depends on where my players like to take things.
So where the players take the risk.
Yep. What I like to do is I just like to set a scene, and the rest is up to the players. I'm not trying to control any decisions or choose one decision over make players pick one decision over another. It's very much, all right, you have the power here, you take things where you want to go, and I will shape the world according to how the world would react.
How does that differ from your characters that you play? Because you play quite a number of risky characters.
Very risque characters.
Risque characters.
I think a lot of it really, like, it's very much depends on the person you have running the game, and if they're comfortable like running with the risks that you're willing to take in game, or the options you're willing to give them. It's really just, again, for me as a player, not speaking as a DM, it's easier to feed off other players and to see how far they like to take things, and in turn I have that limitation set for me, like, okay, I know I can do this because they're not willing to do this, but all right. So like, it's all very much indicative of the people I'm playing with. Yeah. I'm not when I play, I don't like to go out and create a scene, essentially. I very much like that improv style, like something's happening and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to react to this in this way. What my reaction will be, it really depends on the situation.
What about you, Dale, for your characters?
Well, my characters like to make very, very risky decisions.
Yes, he does.
In our Monday night game, we have this problem with the Gift Queen, the Collector, and a whole nother host of problems, and my character devised this plan that was a three-way party split. We were going to send 3 members to the Gift Queen to pose a distraction, a couple members to go save Terra, and a couple more members to dupe the Collector one final time. Luckily, we didn't have to do this plan because it was incredibly risky. But my Tuesday night character, Veneer, he likes to take risks at every which corner. It's like, hey, how are we going to do this? How about silence, polymorph, and kidnap that person? And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to kill them. All right, we'll drag their body away, and we'll go on to the next person.
Exactly what we did. We still have the body in the bag of holding.
Yes, we do. My characters like to make risks, but I think often, unlike my player in my Sunday game that is no longer with us in that game, they're usually somewhat calculated and somewhat have a purpose to them. Like, I'm not just casting rope trick 6 times to hide away in this cave before we even get to the fight. You know, I'm not burning all my spells. I'm not using all my resources. I'm not dumping party resources, using them behind the party's back, asking the book stupid questions. It's very much, this is going to be risky, but there's usually some kind of point to it.
It's the reward factor.
Yes.
So, yeah, my character is the exact opposite of that. I literally have done everything the exact opposite of what you just said. I have asked the book a dumb question. I have done things for no reason. I have used road trick for no good reason whatsoever. I've done all of those things in the exact opposite way. But what I like about those 2 styles is that there's still a goal in mind. I think even though Maxian's character is just kind of like wild or chaotic, there's still always like a goal in mind. There's still a mission that the party is trying to do something, or the character is trying to do something. And yeah, Maxi may do things away from the party. Maxi may make decisions away from the party and have their own secrets and their own choices and make really, really dumb decisions. But to me, the reward comes in And different from what Kristy 1 is saying too, I think that Maxian still, like, he initiates scenes, but then he improvs the results. So it's like, I know that I need to have a moment with this person, so I'm going to go up to that person, and then whatever else happens after that, we'll just see. And I know that there's like a couple of things I need to get from the person, so I need to purchase a healing potion from this person, and that's actually shown in like a small shopping episode that we did on a Sunday, where he needed to get a grapple hook for his rope trick and he couldn't afford it, so he tried 5 different ways to try and steal it, and all 5 ways failed, and so he gave up and just stole a bin full of like leftover scraps of fabric and just walked out, just having this sense of like, I am a rogue, I need to steal something. So he just picked up and stole something. But in that still sense, is just like, it creates a character for other people to react to, I guess. So even though in making these kind of random characters and making random decisions, they're always something that somebody else, like Kristy 1's character or like your character, can bounce an idea off of. And if there's that moment of just like, we're just going to keep vamping off of each other, I have a character that can keep on going no matter what, and it's never a hard stop because this is something I have to get accomplished as a game mechanic. In that way, I'm pretty sure most DMs will hate that, because just like, as long as these 4 people are on this campaign that real Kirsten Kristy is running, there's not going to be any progress that's going to happen. It's just going to be non-stop vamping off of each other until the entire world just implodes upon itself. But it's an interesting word. Speaking of Kristy's, Kristy 3, how do you play into that factor?
In what, the risk?
Yeah.
Well, it all started when I was a little child, so yesterday.
That's a risk within itself.
No, I don't know. I play to my character's faults. If my character has a risky fault that's gonna get me in trouble, like, I'm not gonna not do it, right? Because, like, you know, you gotta take those chances. But then there are also, like, personal risks sometimes. Like when I made Noah leave.
I made Kristy cry for 3 days.
I made Kristy cry for 3 days. I don't know, I felt like, for one, it just like, sometimes you need a break from a character. Because I didn't have a direction, and it just felt like I wasn't going anywhere. And I was like, let's make it really risky and just kill him. My DM was like, no, that's not a good idea. Kristy will come to your house and murder you.
Yep, that's another risk.
So I was really scared that Kristy was going to murder me for a while.
So you just faked to death like a celebrity.
No, he just faked being Noah. He was a clone Noah for 3 weeks.
Yeah, then we came up with that great idea of me being a clone, which in itself was really risky. Because then I was literally putting the whole party at risk by feeding the bad guy information. I don't know. I just feel like you gotta make those decisions sometimes. Because, like, if it's gonna be fun, you gotta play it like real life. In real life, you're always gonna have risk.
It was, I'd say, for doing the clone Noah thing was definitely a risky situation, because the bad guy's side definitely learned more information than even Noah knew, like real Noah knew. And then choosing to kill off clone Noah was a risk. But in hindsight, I do appreciate the storytelling moments of what happened. But in hindsight, but in the moment, I was fucking mad. I was so wrecked. I've never sobbed like that in a game ever. Tara came close. Elliot came close when he broke Tara in half, and I was like, and that happened like the week after Noah. Like, it was just a rough week with all my D&D games, and I was like, can y'all stop risking and rewarding me? I'm done.
I really feel like risk is necessary, though, because a lot of the time, like, especially with our party in particular, for no apparent reason, we like to think we were invincible. Yeah. And I feel like real risk with something really bad actually happening happening really shows, like, hey, your character can die. Your friends can die. And, like, you need that to have, like, a real connection with your character and be like, okay, this is serious. And then Yellow came and was like, if you die, you gotta let me know, because I'll only bring it back with consent. And, yeah.
Talking about another risk.
I'm not about when parties feel like they are above the world, where they're invincible, they feel like they're gods. I like making my players feel like, wow, I am nothing in comparison to these NPCs. I think it makes for a more fun campaign, and it makes for those decisions that really spur on roleplay moments and combat moments, and adds that risk and reward factor to a game. So I love making players feel like they're not invincible. Just mostly because I'm Kristy and I'm pretty cruel.
Especially when they're just hanging out at a random shop and just get shanked for no damn reason whatsoever.
My brother has a phrase. It goes, being restrained doesn't bother me. That was our fighter's last words before he died by being restrained.
Exactly.
Being restrained doesn't bother me. Head pops off from boa constrictor.
We can take on an army.
Their mission was to scout the mines and report back what's happening, and they said, "Oh, we have to kill the final boss at the end of the dungeon? No, scout."
Oh no!
Oh no! Yep.
Involves black chemicals for the win.
Yep.
I want to get to this point because this is something that another friend from our Sunday campaign was talking about. The idea of the collaboration that requires it. I noticed that one of the things that we've all talked about is like risk moments that have been like executive decisions on our own. I'm imagining most of these decisions did not happen with a lot of conversation. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of it is usually with a DM just so they know, like, okay, I need to know what steps I need to make. But to what level of collaboration is needed to make some of these risks, be it creating a world where anyone can die at any moment, or playing a character that is a clone of himself and shock the rest of the party.
Sometimes I don't even collaborate with my DM. We will be in the session and I will say, hey, what if we did this? And he's like, really?
Is your DM JJ? JJ's just like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's just go for it.
Usually we go through with all of them, but I don't even see it coming. He doesn't see it coming. Kristy's probably the most shocked that it actually comes up. You're like, really, why?
Number one rule, Kristy can't know anything about it. I'm making any executive decision. The last person I'm telling is Kristy.
I just hit Kristy with a really scary, like, hey, it's happening now, and then she cries for 3 days.
So you gave some forewarning? Like some...
No.
Oh, yeah.
What are you talking? I got zero forewarning on that one.
Me and Alex talked about it for weeks.
Zero forewarning on Kara being broken.
Wait, you talked to the DM about it for weeks?
Yeah, we talked about it for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I made my new character for 3 weeks.
Because Clone Noah was part of the party for a good 3 sessions before we realized he was a clone.
Yeah. And then in that time, we found out Noah was a prince. We found out that the whole kingdom was starting an army to fight the other people. And the bad guy who was holding Noah, who was also learning Clone Noah's information, was killing royalty, basically. So, like, that was a really scary twist right there.
Oh, gosh. So, yeah. When I know that one of the things that I, as Kristy number 2, because I came into Kristy's consciousness much later, didn't know much about. But what was the collaboration that happened with Moby leaving? Was there a lot of conversation that happened there?
JJ didn't plan a lot of the I mean, with the DM Michael, yes, there was a little bit of collaboration. I won't go into the reason as to why I decided to retire Moby. It was just a personal kind of stuff going on, but just made it a little bit more difficult to play the character. But in terms of the party knowing, I did give a small heads up to some of the other players, but I felt like some people would benefit more from knowing less. Like it would make the experience more real, essentially.
I got a heads up. Like maybe
everyone
a couple days before I got a heads up.
Everyone did have a minor heads up, just because I mean, they'd been adventuring together for so long, and it was almost a year's worth of playing,
right.
And it wouldn't have been fair to just totally get rid of the character. And I knew there would have been questions coming as to why I was giving up the character, so I just decided to give everyone a bit of forewarning so they knew why my intentions towards retiring the character. But it did have a profound effect on the game and on the party.
For plot reasons, for sure.
And it shaped a lot of the game and where it's heading. Yep.
Yeah, it created essentially a one-shot based off of it as well. So that seems pretty unique of a decision. There's a whole relationship that's there with other characters in the story. How about getting real risky with this and character deaths?
I love character death.
Ultimate risk.
It's the best.
Peace.
I've killed 10 of them.
Really quick one.
So I killed 10. That's my number. What's yours?
6 of them I have killed twice.
really quickly, long drawn out and glorious endings, or quick unexpected move on endings?
I like both. I think both are really good, depending on the situation. Like Yoro, I had 2 characters, so Noah was just straight up surprise death, and everybody was like really shook. But Yoro, everybody knew that was Yoro's endgame. He wanted to finish his quest so he could die. That was like going to be his big glorious thing. And then we got Noah back, and I couldn't get his glorious thing anymore.
Struggle.
It was sad.
Yeah, it sucks when you can't get the glorious thing back. How about you, Kristy? One?
I missed a slip. It really depends on the situation, and if the situation warrants a long drawn out death. Sometimes a quick death can be as good as, you know, having characters say their final words and their farewells to their party, and it makes the experience, gives it a sense of realism, which I really appreciate in D&D games. And I know it's a fantasy based game, but I do appreciate having that little stroke of realism just thrown in there to make it just a bit more intense on the emotions of the players and the characters. But they both absolutely have their place.
Dale, Kirsten?
Oh, I actually just prepped for a character death in my Monday night game. I made a point to make it a little more drawn out. It was my character that got kind of dumped on by my previous DM in a game that I didn't really get to explore his story or his personality. So I retooled him into my Monday night game for a while. After I made the decision for my gnome to leave for a couple sessions. And he wrote down letters, he made little trinkets for the party members and some of the NPCs. It was a very drawn-out occasion. But I don't think I have actually been through a character death interaction. I've seen, as I mentioned, 10 of my player characters die before, and they have all been pretty swift. There was no moment, no right feeling about dragging any of them on, except one where he was the last to die and kind of got to see the boss finish her ritual to become a dragon lich. That one did drag on for about another minute or 2, but even that's not that long.
Yeah, and the one that you were for the Monday night game, like we kind of had it coming. like our DM kind of prepped us that it's a very real possibility that your character could die. So if there's things he wants to do in the next 3 days, which is his timeline, do it now or forever hold your peace. So he wrote out his like goodbye letters and got the trinkets ready. So it was there if we needed it. Thankfully, we haven't needed it yet.
JJ let his players know from the get-go that death was going to be
and
very real.
You didn't.
And
you were very merciful because Blaze should have fucking died.
Yes. Blaze should have died when they were shot in the back by a goblin, and it exceeded their maximum hit points.
By over double.
Over double. And there is even though
that's a question.
death,
why did you choose not to, and when do you choose not to kill your player characters outright? Is there a moment in it, or
there are moments, and there does have to be moments where it makes sense for the plot. Frankly speaking, the only reason I did not kind of rule it a death and just continued to play it off was because I knew you would kill me. I knew Kristy would.
Me and JJ are the same boat.
Yeah. Kristy did spend a lot of time building that one character to be off doing the one rogue thing. The most roguish.
Is that seriously the reason why you didn't kill me? Because you thought I would kill you?
No, not at all.
I'm being like, I'm trying to like probe your brain here, JJ. Be honest with me. Don't just say, "Oh, Kristy's gonna kill me," because Jamie's like, "Yeah, Kristy's gonna kill me if I kill Noah." Fucking true, but for realsies,
Kristy's
though.
you
do kill children on purpose.
You're crossing the line again here. You're crossing it. The line's here, and you're over here. Okay, you were over here. Now you're over here again. You're crossing the line.
There wasn't enough risk happening, so I needed to jump the line.
That was too much. There's too much risk.
The way I saw it was the depths of the character hadn't been explored enough. If you had been a higher level, if you had more interaction with the party, absolutely, I would have ruled it a death. That would have been it for Blossom, Blaze, Aki. But in the moment, I didn't feel it was a necessary part of the campaign to have your character die. But I do think it served as a
wake-up call?
warning.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, to everyone.
I was
that,
shook.
You know, monsters and creatures in this world are powerful. You're not the be-all and end-all. Things can kill you. It is very real. There is always a risk of death. So I feel like even though it was me being kind, it was also me being cruel.
That's what risk is. Risk is kindness and cruelness wrapped up in a pretty bow.
Me.
I want to toss out. I don't know if anybody's in the campaign.
We all want to toss out Kristy too. Let's wait until.
I want to keep her. She's pretty cool, I guess.
You can
there's
leave all the campaigns and watch them implode. It's fine.
I just said I wanted to keep you. Do you want me to not? Do you want me to take it back?
Keeping me or yes or no?
What?
Are you keeping me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, marriage. That's
No.
That's Chloe and Noah.
The minister.
No.
Kristy took the jailbait, damn it.
Damn it! I'm going to jail, guys! Oh no!
Alright, fuck it! Here, you get this like fucking statue. This is me for the rest of the fucking...
No, it's called statute.
Statute! God damn it!
Oh my god.
Rallying it back in. I was going to talk about something wildly different.
Well, that's a piercing I didn't know Kristy 3 had.
So there's a Shadowrun group that I run that actually had a character death in the character creation portion of the story. There is a component in Shadowrun where you can create a character within the story, and in doing so can kill off that character as well. There's a couple of different systems that allow that. I was extremely new to it, and I was killed in a very gruesome way, in a way that was very fast, but like because of the choices that we're making, because I like playing risky characters, I made it way more than what it was. So not only did I die, but I was like mutilated because I kept rolling for things to try and keep myself alive. Became this horrible thing. But I think what was beautiful about it is how the DM kind of turned it into a bit of story, that all these mistakes were happening. And it turned out that all these things that were trying to manipulate with this character that ended up killing that character ended up being the surgeon, which is the character that I took on after the death. So essentially my new character was killing the character that I was currently playing. And it created a new lens for just like that kind of movie where you think that this person's going to definitely be the main character of the story, and then it just like die very quickly and abruptly, and then you just kind of do the like 90s record scratch saying you probably wonder how I got here, and then switching over to another character. It was a really cool effect that I don't think happens a lot in D&D. It's kind of hard to do that, especially when you don't have that character prepared.
Yeah, to transition from one character to another, like especially with an unexpected death. Like there's expected deaths in D&D that like the one that Dale and I possibly could have experienced on the Monday group, but there's also unexpected ones like the one that JJ pulled on my character on our Wednesday group. So it's all a matter of if you have the character prepared and as if it's a death that you're expecting.
Yeah, when I was first starting into 5th edition, I don't know why I thought this was something I was excited about. I was really excited to die as the character in 5th edition.
Why?
Because
no, that's me too. Like I came into it being like, please just kill me. Like I just want to experience death.
Well,
what does that mean?
It was definitely that. Where it's like,
so you all should just play in Dale's game. That's what I'm hearing.
Hey, he may have killed the party twice in a row, but 3 of them didn't stay down forever because I thought it would make a much more interesting thing if the gods summoned them back and said, fix the shit that you started here. But I didn't force them. I said, hey, you can play the same character. You can explore this character more, because I felt like they got kind of chump changed because my player that I shall not name their name on stream ruined the entire campaign for them. I gave them the option. You can be resurrected at level 1 or pick a new character, build a new character.
Yeah.
I just really like that. I like the idea of like drama happening. So I always thought that D&D was this very kind of like over the top thing. And when I first started playing 5th edition, it was just very dull. Like it was just everybody had a dice, everybody had a sheet, everybody knew what was happening, and I was sitting there at this table while watching a bunch of people look at sheet of papers and books, and I'm just like, okay, so like what is happening? I have no story, I have no concept of like what is happening, and I had an idea that I would want something that's like theater of the mind, but I didn't know that theater of the mind was really a thing. So I was just sitting there watching people essentially roll dice and play this board game that's not a board that somebody drew, and I was like, this just seems like it's a fake game. Like it's just not a real thing. It's just people are just like screwing with me that this is an actual D&D game. And so I was just like, I really want something really interesting to happen. Like I fall off a cliff and like blow up for some reason. I just want something really chaotic to happen. Like somebody wrecks somebody.
Spontaneous combustion
off of a cliff.
Can we just make it so my characters burst into flames
at any given moment? And actually, surprisingly, the fun thing about it is that for the Shadowrun game, there's this sense that you pick. Similar, like you can pick different classes and features. You can pick things that you're really good at, but for everything that you pick that you're really good at, you have to pick something that you're really terrible at. So my character was this like magic casting healer type that could like get into people's mind and control their actions, but he ended up being blind and had a gimp leg and had an addiction to certain type of like pharmaceutical drugs, and so like all of these things kind of balanced out. And so like I was looking at this as a Shadowrun character and I was like, this is really interesting. I'm like a blind deafened drug addict that can cast spells. And the thing is, what I didn't realize is that once the game starts, he can't see. Like, literally, there are spells that literally say this is line of sight. And I was like, well, I can't see it. So it's like, well, you're just gonna fire it wild. And I almost murdered the entire party because he was just blind. And he also had a semi-automatic. So he just had a gun in his hand that the party was trying to rescue him. And he's like, somebody's touching me. All right, I'm going to pull the trigger and just shoot. And they're just like, this is something that's wildly chaotic. But because that character was so, like, there's so much story that was happening in the beginning of everything, and everything's fast paced, and I don't know how to play the game. Everybody else doesn't know anything about my character. I'm pretty sure I have a secret that's somewhere, but I was like, it doesn't matter because we're all going to die in this moment. Because of that, there was like a story that was built that this is just somebody who cannot die. Like, this is somebody who just is really lucky. He literally is becoming like the Mr. Bean of the party, where he just blindly walks into the street and just misses the bus. And we're just like, how are you still alive? You're literally a walking bomb everywhere you go. And in a way, that's what got me so interested in those characters, which is why Robin exists. It's just like, you're literally a walking time bomb. At any moment, you're just going to cause so much disaster around you. It's amazing. And that's where, like, most of the risk for me comes in. Is like, I like playing that wild card all the time. Maxian is always the person that's going to...
So you enjoy the risk, and that's why you chose to give him the wild magic?
Yeah, well, one, I specifically chose wild magic because Kristy, one, was just like, do it or I will kill you. But even on top of that, it was just like love
in our group. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna kill you if you don't do this.
Exactly, that's how it happens. But it was just fun. It seemed like it was a fun lore character, and I don't think that I had an opportunity to play it. It's something that every kind of role or class that I've played in D&D, it never really got to the point of being, this is the type of person that kind of fits what I'm looking for in a story. So why not just play that character now? And so it's risky. There's so many moments where I'm just like, there's so many things you can discover from that, so many chances, but then when the reward happens, it makes for a very delicious thing to watch. Which is why I still think that to this day, there's going to be one moment where, like, Robin's luck is going to run out and then something's going to happen. I've said that about my character Bones, and Bones has made it through 3 seasons of stories. So all of Chicago has burnt up and blew up and everybody's dead in the city, but he's still alive. And now they're terrorizing London, and London is blowing up and he's still alive. I'm pretty sure the next one's going to be Canada. And also
leave Canada alone.
They're going to just do world destruction, and there will be one person sitting amongst the wreckage, and it's this cockroach named Bones that just will not die. Maybe that will be Robin.
I'm curious, like, for Dale, because you played Jeeves, what's some of, like, maybe a favorite moment where you took a risk as Jeeves?
As Jeeves?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say it's
when Ask Jeeves became Google.
You Jeevesed it.
You Jeevesed it. I'd say it'd have to be when he was calling out the collector. When my gnome left, it was for the intention that our party was consistently on the defensive against this enemy. So my character took the last thing that this villain needed, and he fled. He was going to go find out how to beat him. While the party defended against all the crap that he kept pulling, he was going to leave and go do get his hands dirty and leave. I'd have to say that his entrance back to the party, him calling out the villain and saying, "We are going to beat you now," was probably the most risky thing he has done. Just casting Dream, getting into a celestial being's mind, and saying, "We're going to shit on your world. And we're going to do it elegantly. And we're not going to sacrifice our friends to do it. Yeah. We're going to do it our way." Or it had to be when my paladin, Yuko, made that deal... with the collector, the same villain. Both my characters like to call out this villain. And he said, "You can have my body if the information that I give you don't know about." knowing that his body belonged to 2 other creatures before this one could possibly get it, and then proceeding to stab this creature in the throat when he tried to take him away. That would probably be my Yuko riskiest moment, but Jeeves' consistency to call out the villain and say, we are going to beat you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I could see that. I agree with that.
Like the triple dome strategy, you know?
The triple dome was so good!
The triple dome. We trapped the Vampire Lord in a watery sphere, then surrounded it with an earth dome, and then surrounded it with a wall of fire.
We avatared that shit.
Yes.
It was so good.
That's can't
way to do it.
And that was one of the moments where my DM was like, did you really just do this? Yes, we did, Elliot.
From what
I want to ask the chat. Can you come up with some wacky questions for us, just before we run out of time?
How much more time do we have to do? Because there's one more question that I think somebody was already.
I mean, I'm not in a rush to end it. Like, whatever. Just do whatever the fuck you want.
That's a great answer. I like that answer.
Do whatever the fuck you... At this point, this is the takeover. I'm fully expecting.
Can you say that to me on like Tuesday nights?
Yeah.
Just do whatever.
There's a reason I don't tell you that, Dale. There's a reason that this is happening on a Thursday, not a Tuesday.
The question that I had from some folks who are just getting started into D&D, who was talking about this idea, is risk taking for the new player or the new DM?
It's a matter of if you feel comfortable with it. Adding risk to your game can be a thing of beauty. It can foil plots, but it can also derail a campaign. So you need to be a little bit careful. It can be a scary thing coming in as a new player and taking all these risks with your new character when you're not familiar with how the game is played, the rules. Not that you should focus too much on the rules of the game anyway. But it's really, rules are made to be broken. How I see it.
That is, if you understand the rules in the first place. I mean, come on.
If you don't understand the rules, then they're already broken. So
there you go.
Yeah.
True.
So coming into it as a new DM, new player, I say just do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Just roll with it. If it's not working for you, change it up. But sure, as someone who is chaotic in nature, just take all the risk. Implode.
Implode the universe. That's the goal. What do you think?
Number 3. You haven't said anything.
3, 2, 1.
And I see you've taken out your septum piercing. And you've shaved your beard. How would you... what would you say in relation to that question? I'm interested to know.
I feel like risk is only good when the time allots for it. I feel like if you're constantly taking risks, it gets like overwhelming and really off track. I wouldn't say like right off the bat come into the party and be like, I want to go kill the leader of the city right now.
That's what I mean, like taking it like with those controlled risks. Like you're not going to go do something that's totally insane, but you might be like, all right, I'm going to... in my example, one of my characters jumped off like a tower into a shallow lake in attempts to draw some orcs away from an attacking town.
Yeah, that was
didn't pay off,
no,
and the character
almost
died and drowned. But I mean, like it was fun because I wasn't personally drowning.
Make sure the risk has something that someone else can enjoy.
I think if you feel like your character would make the risk, then go for it. When it comes down to it, you're playing a game. And, you know, if you're not having fun, then are you really playing a game?
Like, yeah.
I mean, yeah, you still are playing the game.
No,
It's not a fun game.
You're not.
It's just not a fun game.
You're not playing the game. Games are meant to be fun.
Kristy, number 3. I feel like having that many buttons undone on your top is a bit of a risk as well.
Can you please put away your taco meat? We're not having enchiladas tonight.
Can you leave all the Kristies alone? Just leave me alone. Can you just...
I'm sorry, I really appreciated your manly chest hair.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You just yelled at me for it.
I'm sorry, Kristy. If
Friendships are being destroyed right now.
If you would like to show your taco meat, I will be happy to allow you to put it on a silver platter for people to.
Can you not say that with my name in it, Lip? Can you not say my name when you say that shit?
I'm just gonna go take a shower.
So yeah, people in the chat, questions?
What do you think is the worst fruit, and why is it a banana?
I feel like this is specifically aimed at me, and
it's from Victoria, so probably.
The worst fruit is definitely a sultana, because who wants to eat a fucking dry little rotten grape? Fuck that shit. Disgusting.
So yeah, I agree with Chris. One, bananas are terrible. What are you all doing tonight?
Crying.
Yeah.
Myself to sleep. Because everybody hates me.
Are you having fun? Because if you're not having fun,
I'm
you're
not
having a game.
I'm not having fun. This isn't a game. This isn't a game. This is just like high school all over again. Anyways.
No, yesterday.
My anxiety's coming back.
This is a little too real.
I just want everybody to get the image of all three Kristies laying in bed tonight crying, whispering to themselves that this is not a game.
I mean, that's pretty accurate to Kristy. Not gonna lie, that's too real. Can we not?
Wowie.
We were told to wrap it up with your favorite Kristy story, but I don't think we're ready to wrap it up yet.
Nah. We'll do one last thing. Dale, is there anything that you wanted to ask us, the Kristies?
The Kristies? Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty open with my.
You're like, why the hell are you all illegal on this stream right now? Why is this happening?
I just need all of you to know that Kristy is my minion of chaos. So whenever I think of something ridiculous for my Sunday game, it usually immediately gets sent to Kristy, and it'll be like 4 in the morning. It'll be like, Kristy, hear me out on this. I'm going to throw a creature at the party, and because they're going to see it on Sunday anyway, I'll just try and show you the nice little creature that they'll be facing.
That creature better twerk it out.
It spreads pestilence and plague.
That sounds like me. That's like me for real.
They're in the first layer of hell.
Kristy helps Dale sometimes with his evil
ideas. With my terrible ideas. And then when she's running a stream that's, 5 people trying to kill each other over a wish spell, it usually comes back to me with, what do I do with this? Like, okay, well, here's a few ideas that I just came up with, and I'm sorry if they hurt, but
no, you're not.
Gotta stay evil,
You're not sorry. Don't lie.
It hurt.
And then there's a rogue in a corner being berated by dinosaur traps.
You can thank Dale for the rage, okay? He saved your butts. He wasn't very nice to the wizards, but it was nice to the rogues.
No.
Because everybody else is like, yeah, we're gonna take a chill pill and we're gonna go sit and talk about it, and then Victoria's like, I want to eat Stumpy and murder him and just get my ass eaten by this fucking devil.
That's a risk.
That was really precise and accurate.
That was a risk that I think Miss Victoria just got rewarded for.
And then all of a sudden she's like, oh wait, no, I want to go over there and see what's going on. And I'm going to pick you up and fly you over there too. Yay! I'm not mad.
She says you're welcome. Oh God, you guys.
Well, all I can say is wowie. That's all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
Which
have we
is
done with
surprising
that?
because that's so unlike you, Kristy, to say such
That
a word.
really is.
So unlike you.
This was not what I expected when you say this was the takeover. I was not expecting you to just take on the personalities of Kristy 1, 2, and 3.
But here's the question: do we need a takeover part 2?
Oh.
Most likely, you probably will.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm looking. I really want to see what the chat has to say about this. How long do you think it's gonna be before Veneer pisses off Oriana? again?
Aranya.
She is my
Right,
character's
yeah.
wife, and he pisses her off at least every session.
I'd say see you next Tuesday, because that's gonna be
Damn.
when.
Who's gonna do me like that? That's mean. That's rude.
You know
I've been
what?
behaving, thank you.
I take it. I can deal it back. Okay, bitch.
Why not? Why can't I talk close to my mic? I don't understand.
I want to challenge Kristy 3 to be more like Kristy 1 by always talking that close to the mic in every character that she does.
You got it. Welcome to my ASMR channel.
Now be Bubbles.
Oh God, I don't think I have the ear capacity for
What do
it.
you mean by it's sleazy?
Sleazy as a taco meat top.
God damn it.
This is like some late night radio shit, and I'm about it.
Speaking of late night
Oh,
radio,
hell
you guys,
yes.
you can also listen to Mystic Hour on podcasts. You can also go to Patreon or Patreon. What is it? Patreon. That's right.
Patreon.com/MysticHour
Mystic
or
Hour,
iTunes.
yeah.
You can find Mystic Hour podcast on iTunes as well.
I know. That's
Is
what
the
you're saying.
Mystic Hour
Because I have
Patreon
you.
the proficiency bonus Patreon?
No, that's a different one. We're still setting the Patreon for proficiency bonus up.
Oh, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, we got to set up the different.
Way to
tiers.
spoil it.
Yeah, just ruin everything. God,
No,
No,
Kristy,
because
you
we
suck.
had it originally. but
God
we
damn
haven't-
it.
I
we
like
haven't
to ruin
launched.
things. Ruining things.
It hasn't been launched, you know what?
We can all talk really close to the microphone.
iTunes, I apologize if you're not watching this.
I'm sorry. You didn't hear anything, you bastards.
See? Chandris wants to hear Bubbles' voices from all of you, so do it.
No,
Why?
because
Hang on,
because
Kirsten,
one-
can you give us your impression of A Bubble's voice?
I'm doing it right now.
I'm doing it right now. I'm gonna run in and I'm gonna attack everything.
You have to say hardcore!
Hardcore!
There you go.
Chrissy 3 breathes so hard, then the camera fog.
Actually, Kristy 3 breathes so hard that Kristen's screen is just completely off.
Oh, what's behind door number 1?
You might die.
It's Kristy number 2.
hiding in the closet there.
Wait a second. You guys are in my closet? That's crazy.
No, just R. Kelly.
Stay out of the closet, Jamie, where you belong.
Hey.
Hey.
So
I feel like I do feel like this is a pretty good time to wrap it up.
yeah,
No.
because we've descended into
That's not
madness at this point.
No, we have. It's
Nope.
just
So they want us to wrap it up
Barely.
with your favorite Kristy stories. This is.
I don't have one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
a
gosh.
testament to
On that
Christy.
note-
There are no favorite characters.
I got you. I understand. Y'all fucking hate me. I got it. I got it.
Oh my
That's
God.
this whole episode.
With-
Kristy, I love you. I didn't mean it.
I
love you, but we
will.
don't have any stories about you.
I'll give one story.
Oh no.
Favorite story is the moment that Kristy. I don't know if I can say this.
Just do it.
Do you want me to go first with my favorite story?
Yeah.
47. That's all I gotta say because that was funny as
So my
fuck.
favorite Christy story.
That's not my favorite, but that's a good one.
That is a good one. Go ahead,
My
Kristy,
favorite
number
Christy
one.
story is when she, so was when Kristy first admitted to me that she had a body pillow fashioned after me. And that she cuddles up to it every night and whispers sweet nothings in its ear.
Can I have that too?
Yeah, can we just all share it? There's a lot of people
one right
who
here.
commented with you.
That was that was my favorite Kristy story. It's just not funny, but
Yeah, mine's is off camera too, so I don't know if I can talk about it. I'll talk about it on camera moment. My favorite on camera moment is when her character got really high, and then that other time where her character got really high, and then that other moment where her character got really high, and then that other moment where her character got really high.
got really high. And then
Kristy got high while making the character, and that character was just secondhand smoked high.
So
but no,
your
I think I
favorite
like
moment is
the
Kristy stoned. That's what you're telling me.
My favorite moment is Noah stoned.
I hate you. Stop. That's not nice. That hurts. That hurts, Jamie. That's too real.
wait, is that how Noah died? Did he get stoned?
He got petrified
No, the
into
clone was a
stone.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like one of those classic stonings, like back in the 1600s.
No.
Just literally just stone.
No, that's not it either.
Dale, do you have a favorite Kristy moment or story? I mean, there's an absolute plethora to choose from.
I know it.
Each other for
I'm
ages.
trying to think about it, but it's got to be when so my Monday night character, my paladin Yuko, he was being stupid, as Kristy so elegantly puts it on multiple occasions, that she is a halfling and she uppercuts my character and then kicks him in the shin and then tells the lady of the land how to deal with him when he gets to be an asshole, and it's just use violence. And my character walks into the room after
Such a Kristy thing to do.
Yeah, we concluded our his potential dying thing, I think, for the most part here, and just immediately violence. And I was like, what? And she was like, I told her that if you start being an asshole, we'll use violence. Like, damn it, Kristy.
The DM's like, pretty much used her character and was like, yep, I think I like Bubbles' way of dealing with you. And just fucking attacked you. I'm so proud of you.
I feel like Kristy always deals everything with violence. I mean, for example, last time we played Hello High Water Deep, she re-broke an NPC's nose for no good reason. I mean,
he was being stupid!
Come on, everybody wanted to break that nose.
Okay. Yes, he deserved it. He wanted to go right back out there and get into trouble right after we just saved his ass from being kidnapped. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to go out and do that again. So, Blaze
when you
punched
break
him.
his legs so he couldn't walk?
You know, I was going to defend Kristy, but then I remembered in order to save Noah, she basically murdered a man in his sleep.
The man that stoned you and stole you and gave us a clone. Of course I murdered him in his sleep.
You cut off his head.
Yeah, it was
so
very
what
satisfying.
we've realized is that Kristy's a very violent person.
Just in game, guys. It's
safe
just a
around her.
game.
To be fair, she wasn't violent until that moment.
Kristy is very affectionate IRL. If I met any of you, you guys would be attacked with hugs.
Yeah, my shins would be bruised.
See, but even like we're still being attacked. Like it's
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I won't hug or touch any of you. I got it.
You can touch me all you want.
Yeah, you can touch me. I'm okay with being touched by any of you.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you
Oh,
would like
thank
to
you.
touch me, I will be at this location at this time, ready for the touch.
I feel like this is written on a bathroom cubicle wall right now.
It is not. It's written on 17 bathroom walls. And I cycle through each of them every 2 seconds.
So wait,
Right,
all
so-
of your favorite moments
Kristy's
of me is my
My
character being
favorite-
violent.
My
I
favorite
said when you
moment
got
was
high.
Mine was when you admitted you had a body pillow of me.
mine is we've had a lot of very good moments. Like every moment that our character's RP is really good, but I think my favorite is the session after you lost Noah, when I came to you with Yoro. And I crawled out of the tree as a sloth, and I hugged you. And you were all about it. And then an hour later, I turned into the huge furbolg. Your reaction was priceless.
I just wanted a sloth hug, and then all of a sudden this furbolg appears on my giant elk, and I just yeeted you off the fucking giant elk. So I was like, who the fuck is this stranger hugging?
And my furbolg looked like a half-naked blue Jesus.
So, Asha.
Asha's not blue.
Asha is blue.
She's purple, or if she's in view with Max, she's green.
Oh.
Green, that is true.
Kirsten, what is your favorite Kristy story with the 3 Kristys that are hosting you right now?
Or everyone.
My favorite Kristy story?
Favorite Kristy story.
And Dale.
And Dale. You left Dale out.
Sorry,
Which
Dale.
is an honorary.
Honorary Kristy, gotcha.
Kristy 1.5.
Actually, Kristy number 3, because Stumpy got demoted, so.
To waitlist.
Oh. Fine. I'm used to it.
I'd say, probably my favorite moment with Lip, or Kristy number 2, 3. What number are you now?
Yeah.
I don't
He's
know.
2. Technically, he's 3.
The Black Kristy.
No,
This is
technically,
Black Kristy.
Lip was waitlisted because I was promoted to 2. I feel like everybody forgot that promotion, but it happened.
What promotion?
Exactly.
Probably my favorite moment with Lip was, it happened very early on, and that was when everyone was hazing my character and getting her drunk for the first time. And he pulled
That
hero...
sounds like just...
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but Lip's character turned, like, that was, I guess, a defining moment for our 2 characters on why we ended up being so close. Is he shot a crossbow at one of the ones that was messing with me, came over, picked me up off the floor because I was drunk, and took me to bed, and made sure I was tucked in, and made sure Okuma was close, and that, I think, was a very sweet moment, and I was not expecting it in character at all. What?
That would be something Lip would do, I reckon, but he'd also take a photo of you in your most terrible state.
If
Like
D&D had cell phones, he probably
what we didn't know at the time is that Maxian tucked in Ashra and then knelt down on the side of the bed and started praying to Maxian's new Jesus.
She's not Jesus. Please stop.
That's literally what happened in the story.
I also liked the moment where Maxian tried to leave the party, and Ashra's passive perception is 1,000,000, and she stopped him from leaving. So that was great.
I feel like...
I love the moment that you derogued the road.
That's a lot. That's really high.
Of the rules, I think.
It's
1,000,000
really,
passive
really
perception.
high. Yeah.
21. 21
Are you sure you didn't calculate that wrong?
No. I took observant feet, bitch.
That still doesn't
thing is
make
that
it 1,000,000.
Ashra's perception is Maxian's stealth, so it's just literally a straight roll for the 2 of them, and I roll really crappily. All right, so what about Bearded Kristy?
Bearded Kristy? God damn it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Kristy number 3.
No. No.
No, that's prepubescent Kristy.
Do you want my favorite character moments with my characters, or is it this in general?
Not person.
Yeah, personal-wise, it doesn't have to be in the story.
Real quick, this is a Telltale game, and Stumpy will remember this. So...
God damn it. God damn it. Who should I go first?
JJ.
Okay. JJ. I think JJ, when... God damn.
There are none. Next.
No, I'm just trying to like think of what's
Can't
appropriate.
really stand hanging out.
There's nothing really just there.
He's just there.
The dance.
He's just there.
The dance.
No, because like me and JJ didn't get close in probably mid-campaign of Storm King's Thunder. And I feel like our characters were kind of at odds in terms of morals and what we thought was right, because he was definitely not okay with Callista killing Kella 3 times in a row.
And me bringing her back every single time.
Yeah, you and Diana bringing her back, and I kept killing her, and you were like, this is not okay. But, so that was probably when we were at the edge of getting close, but then we started getting closer towards the end.
Edge.
We were edging. We were at
Big
the edge
old,
of being close.
big old edging.
But actually, I really liked the moment when Callista realized how impactful Moby's present was and when he was gone, and that was me also as a player realizing when JJ wasn't in Storm King's Thunder, the impact that had on just a group out of character as well as in character. So when he came back, when Moby came back briefly, it was just a relief to have him back and a relief to have you back in the party. It felt whole again. And then that's when I feel like the two of us really got close again, or close in the beginning. And so at the same time, I chose to have Callista hug him for the first time. But that was also partially me being like, I miss JJ, I want to give him a hug. Because I missed him. And then when you pulled me into Waterdeep, that was unexpected but fun, and I appreciate that to no end now, because the Waterdeep group is something else. It's something else entirely.
Yep.
So
something else.
You facilitated that very, very well, and I'm very grateful that you pulled me in, even if it's only for my internet and you're only using me for my streaming capabilities. I still appreciate
Next.
Ixnay.
Jamie.
Oh god.
Yes, 47 was pretty funny when Chloe and Noah finally did the thing and we rolled performance, and 47 was the combined number of the performance. And we killed our DM with it. It was great.
So funny.
It was pretty funny. No, I feel like us as people got closer as Chloe and Noah got closer. Because up until the chill touch moment that happened off stream,
yeah,
I was not at all invested in you as a person, you as a player, or...
I know, I'm just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But also the game. Also the game.
Dead serious? Dead serious? First session, my character was weird as fuck. I ate a whole fucking spider just because I felt like it, and I had no idea where I was taking them.
So I feel like the chill touch moment really solidified me staying in the group, because as I said before, I was completely okay if my character died and I just probably wouldn't have made a new character and I would have just left the group. Like, that was kind of my mindset. But because you pulled my character in and we had like emotional connection as characters, I was able to be emotionally involved with not just you, but the rest of the Insight Check crew. And I feel like if you didn't take that step with Chloe, you wouldn't be here right now, because I wouldn't invite you on my show. So I feel like the chill touch moment was the solidifying moment of our friendship.
Was your ticket onto the show.
So you're meaning to tell me that the moment everybody was really pissed off at me for stealing a magic book that I wasn't supposed to have and using it and ruining everybody else's chance at using it? So
I wasn't mad that you stole it. I thought it was great.
So this takes us all the way back to that risk factor.
Full circle.
And now we start the show again.
Yes.
We're in a loop.
Yes, I'm Kristy.
And then with Dale,
I'm Kristy Mysticwater.
God damn it. And with Dale, like I said, our first interaction was not a healthy one at all.
Our first like 4 were not.
Our first 4 were not healthy interactions. I definitely felt like you did not want me in your groups. And then you invited me to a second group that you were in, and I was like, okay, so he doesn't hate me if he's bringing me into a second group with him. So
or maybe he hates you so much
that he wants to kill me. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna make you suffer. It's all a big plot,
It's
Kristy.
just a plot to like make me suffer. No, I don't know when the two of us really became close, but I realized very quickly the type of personality and the person that Dale is and how he treats his friends in general. So it was very clear to me that we're actually very alike. And it was kind of scary how alike we are. That it was very...
The mind meld.
We mind melded, and I think from that mind meld point onwards, maybe even before the mind meld, we were already mind melded, but like in game, our characters mind melded with in the Underdark with the spores or whatever. And ever since then, and probably just before then even, there are moments where we say the exact same thing at the exact same time, and it's fucking creepy. Or we have the exact same thoughts, and I'll do something, and you're like, God damn it, Kristy, get out of my head. I was going to do that, and vice versa. You'll do something, and I'm like, get out of my head. It's creepy. So I feel like with me and Dale, there's no one defining moment, but I'd say the mind meld was probably my favorite moment, just because it kind of like solidified us as players, not just as characters, that, yeah, we are pretty much mind melded IRL. So that's kind of how I felt with that.
Wonderful.
That's just me telling you I love all of you, even though you guys all fucking drive me crazy, but I love your faces and I love you all so much, and I don't know where I'd be without any of you, so I do appreciate
Probably somewhere better.
Probably somewhere much, much safer.
In a much safer environment, yeah, maybe.
Yes.
These 4 men are very important to me.
Crying.
They're very important people in my life, and I'm very glad that I have them all here trying to be me. But yeah.
These 3 men and 1 little boy.
I want little boy.
Alright, well that's where we're gonna cut it. Thank you for watching Mystic Hour.
One little twinkle in the male's
I
eye.
hope you all had a great time. I'm Kristy Waitlist.
I'm both Kristy.
I'm actually really Kristy, I promise. I hope. I think. I don't know anymore. I'm so confused.
Oh, the plan works. She doesn't remember who she is. Quick.
There we go. Now let's run every one of her campaigns with her just understanding everything about her
Thank you to my
characters.
hosts / guests, Lip, JJ, and Jamie. Thanks to my real guest, Dale.
Thank you
to
for
check out
jumping this
dicebar.com.
closer, fuck.
Enter the coupon code PROBO, PROBO, for free expedited shipping on all your Dice and D&D merchandise over at dicebar.com. Thank you, sponsors. Thank you, BBs. I love you all so much. And thank you for watching this chaos. It was a very risky move, but it was worth it. Ah!
It was very worth it.
Okay, love you, bye!